Hey, folks, just getting settled here. We'll be with you momentarily as I wait to fly the chair again tonight. Let's switch this over to live chat. Susan's already ready for us, which is great. I know we said a 7 p.m. start. We started chatting early, so I figured we'd come on early and give everyone the heads up. So, Susan, we actually had I had a tarot reader last night from Gloucester on, and she brought like
Tara.
20 different tarot decks with her last night. So
Wow.
we talked up the show pretty well today. Hi, Annalee, how you doing? If you're going to hear me mention Annalee's name a lot tonight, Susan, she is our head moderator.
Okay.
She wields a big stick around the room. So, Annalee, just so you know, Susan cannot see the live chat tonight, but if you can help us out, Annalee, Annalee says hi, by the way, Susan. Annalee, there is the link to Susan's website, Busting Breast Cancer. Oh, Pauline from Pauline's Gifts is here. I'm painting and sipping wine while I watch. I like it. Well, probably not wine though, right? Hello, Pauline. Good to see you. There's Jilly Beans. How you doing, Jilly? Jilly was our tarot reader last night.
Oh.
So hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Happy Thursday. This is our second conversation with author Susan Wadia-Ells, so I'm super excited about it. I love chatting with her. So this should be fun tonight. It's an amazing topic, and she's a bit of a research freak, and she has done her homework here, and there is lots to share. So we're excited to talk about her book tonight, right here, Busting Breast Cancer. I'm gonna hold it in front of me so we don't lose it in the image. Okay, and Annalee has the link, folks. So we'll just wait a few more minutes. So I do want to share this with you, Susan.
Yeah.
So we started last night giving away prizes on the show. So tonight we're actually going to have a drawing and give away one of your books here. So just so you know, I got this at the bookstore of Gloucester.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday, and they're sold out now.
That's right.
It's the last copy. So I was with Arwen yesterday.
I'll restock them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Although they can also order it themselves, but they're local. I'm happy to restock them.
Yeah.
They can order it from Ingram Spark, the book distributor.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I went in yesterday and saw Arwen. I'm like, Arwen, I need Busting Breast Cancer. She goes, oh, yeah, Susan's looking. Yeah. She goes, I think we have one left. And she just went, it's right there, and nailed it on the shelf. So
yeah,
that was nice.
Good.
Let's see. Christian, good to see you tonight. Hi, Joan. Hello. Say hello to Susan, our esteemed guest this evening. It's great to see everybody. I'm just going to wait till probably maybe 2 more minutes just to get going with the show, just for the latecomers. Susan and I just got the chatting early. Everyone's saying hi, Susan.
Hello.
Oh, Christian Montone is one of our moderators as well, and is also an author of children's books, and Ingram Spark is his book distributor as well, he says.
Okay. Yeah, we've covered the whole gamut. So one can order it on Amazon. You can on any ebook platform as well, but the paperback is on Amazon or distributed by Ingram Spark, or I have the launch copies on my that you can order on my website.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Great seeing everyone tonight. So once again, if you're just tuning in, I'm Corey. She's Susan Wadia-Ells. She is the author of Busting Breast Cancer. Right here, folks, 5 simple steps to keep breast cancer out of your body. And it's a great read. She's put a ton of time into this. But also, since this has come out, Susan's learned a lot as well. And I should have probably asked you too, Susan. I'd like to get into, was this research all done like pre-COVID? And then since COVID's come and almost gone, well, it's never really going to go.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out what you've learned in the time from the first printing to now.
Yeah. I mean, the research really ended during 2020.
Hmm.
And then the launch copy, the one you have that I have, came out just at the end of 2020, and then Amazon started publishing it in 2021.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Okay. So I guess right off the top, welcome to the show, Susan. It's great to see you again. Now,
Good
for
to be
those,
here.
yeah, for those who don't know, can you just sort of give us the A to Z on busting breast cancer? Why you wrote this, what went into it, and why the topic is so important to you?
Sure. I guess over the last 20 years now, I have lost, I don't know, 8, 9 friends from breast cancer. From metastatic breast cancer, which is how you die. You know, you have die early. You have a initial diagnosis, and 40% of women who have an initial diagnosis of an early stage breast cancer today are going on to develop metastatic breast cancer, which means it can go out of your breast and into vital organs. And I just got very angry. I didn't want to get the disease myself, and I figured no one was talking about prevention, so someone needed to figure out prevention. And my luck was in 2013, Dr. Tom Seifrid at Boston College, an esteemed geneticist, was able to publish something called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. And that finally taught us and showed us why one woman develops breast cancer and why many others of us never will. And so that's what I'm sharing in this book. The research that explains why and how that first breast cancer cell begins in a woman's body, and now how we can prevent it. So it's a good news book, thank heavens.
Well, then what did you learn? How is cancer being introduced to the body?
Well, cancer, unlike, the breast cancer clinics or the cancer clinics around the country, be they at your community hospital, be they at Dana-Farber in Boston, Sloan Kettering in New York City, they are still following what's known as the genetic theory of cancer. And they've been following that for decades. But the genetic theory leaves out one little piece: how that first cancer cell develops, why one woman in this case gets breast cancer, why another doesn't. Whereas the metabolic theory is very clear about explaining to us exactly how the first cancer cell begins. And so that is when you suffocate the power batteries, or called the mitochondria, in this case, your breast cell. And so once you've suffocated the mitochondria, and you have many mitochondria in one breast cell, maybe 80, the brain has maybe 1,000 mitochondria in each brain cell, because you need more energy in your brain than you do in your breast, right? So, and that is what gives us the energy. So once those little mitochondria suffocate, they are able to send a signal to the nucleus in the cell, the sort of considered the brain power of the cell, and they tell it, start to duplicate endlessly. And they do that because mitochondria in prehistoric time used to be like that compost heap in the backyard. They were single cell bacteria that all they knew how to do was gulp glucose, because there wasn't a lot of oxygen in the air in prehistoric time, but there was a lot of glucose. So they would eat up the glucose, and then they would multiply rapidly. Sort of like you take the garbage out to the backyard and you dump it in the compost heap to feed the bacteria in your compost heap, so it will make more black earth. In this case, when you suffocate the mitochondria in your breast cells, those things go back to how they were in prehistoric time. And so instead of breathing in or respiring oxygen, which is what our healthy cells do, you suffocate us and we don't live very long, right? But with cancer, they don't need those cancer cells. They don't need oxygen anymore. They're back in prehistoric time, and all they're doing is eating the glucose you put in your mouth and duplicating endlessly and making a tumor. So once we understood that, and once Dr. Seifrid's book came out and that theory was well understood by biologists, it's a college textbook, then I could extrapolate from that and say, okay, what are the different things that that suffocate the power batteries, that suffocate the mitochondria in a cell? And that's what the 5 simple steps are about. They're like how not to suffocate the power batteries in your breast cells. And I should say that that breast cancer is no different from other cancers. Be it lung cancer, be it liver cancer, that you're always going to be suffocating the mitochondria in those particular organs where the cancer is starting. And breast cancer, one of the reasons there's so much more breast cancer than, let's say, I hate to say than pancreatic, but that's true. There is more breast, is because there are only so many organs that will absorb hormones like estrogen. And estrogen will go into a male's prostate, it will go into female's breasts, female's ovaries. And so those are like the 3 cancers that are quite rampant because we have so much excess. We have chemical estrogens in us, in our surroundings, in our environment these days. And so that's why when you have excess of estrogen, be it from fat cells, be it from chemicals in the water, in the air, in the food, that's why you can get so much breast cancer, because you've got this excess. And the estrogen stuff can only, the estrogen, let's say from animal fat, can only go into your sex organs and a few other organs that allow estrogen in. So that may be getting too complex, but the 5 simple steps, and we can get into them, and because I think that's really what people want to know about. Like, I don't have breast cancer. How do I make sure I don't have breast cancer tomorrow, the next day, etc.? And that's what I've tried to do with the book, is to explain to everyone how to keep breast cancer out of our bodies. So here we go. Should we do the 5?
We can do the 5. A question that just occurred to me while you were just speaking was, so you're inspired to write the book and to research the book. Which avenues did you go down to do research, and who did you talk to, and why? Like, who were you seeking to learn from?
Well, this book couldn't have been done without the internet. I mean, the internet is the most amazing vehicle for researchers. And so before I met Dr. Seifert and was introduced to his book, and that came out in 2012, I didn't see the work until about 2013. And I started my research on this book probably about 2008. I was writing a column for the Gloucester Daily News called Honest Health. And so when I learned about why mammograms are so horrible for women, I then could write about immediately why mammograms are so horrible for women. And that had nothing to do with mitochondria at that point, or what we knew about birth control drugs. But I didn't understand the biology at that point, because the genetic theory, which was the only theory going before 2012, they didn't understand the biology. They still don't. I mean, if women who have developed breast cancer, they will tell me these horror stories. They go into Dana-Farber, they go into Beverly Hospital, they go into any regular cancer center, and they say, "Doctor, how come I have breast cancer? What is wrong? I'm blah, blah, blah." And the doctors will say, they'll say, "Jenny Lou, we're so sorry. Maybe you were just the unlucky one." Or, "Sarah Lou, we're really sad. I guess maybe it was just your turn." I mean, this is just horrific words for women to hear. And then what they know is the doctor who's treating their disease doesn't understand the origin of their disease, doesn't understand how the disease started. You don't want a doctor treating you if they don't understand what's going on. Or why it started. And so meanwhile, as Dr. Seifert says, whenever you see a woman without any hair, unless she has alopecia, whatever that autoimmune condition, that the doctor who's treating her does not understand the origin of her disease, because a doctor who does understands that you would never use heavy chemotherapy. You would never use radiation, because the suffocation of the mitochondria happens when everything gets inflamed. And so you want to keep the mitochondria non-inflamed. And the last thing you want to do is poke it for a biopsy or radiate it with, with ionizing radiation, or poison healthy cells as well as cancer cells. And so I forget how we got on this now, but I went, so when I was beginning to research this, I would come upon studies that said, we don't know why women who take birth control drugs get more breast cancer than women who don't, but they do. So be aware of that if you're taking birth control drugs, or we don't know why women who are obese or overweight have a 30% higher risk of developing breast cancer. We don't know why, but they do. So lose weight. Yeah. It was all, this is what we're finding out. We don't know why. So do that. Or they would say, oh, people who drink a lot of alcohol, they get a lot of breast cancer. So don't drink alcohol. We don't know why, but they do. And I called it, I was getting very, very disheartened by about 2012. All I had were these peanut butter studies, that I would call them. I'm being funny now, but let's say you had a research study that said, we looked at 700 women who had breast cancer and 700 women who didn't. And we found that the women who had breast cancer more of them liked peanut butter than the women who didn't have breast cancer. So don't eat peanut butter, because we find that more women who eat peanut butter get breast cancer than women who don't. I said, I will not do a book that tells women these kinds of things. We don't know why, but don't do this. We don't know why, but don't. And that's all women have had. And we're mad about it. We're mad about it. Because breast cancer rates have been rising like this in younger women, always high in older women, but now they're coming up in younger women, and we do know why. But the cancer centers still don't go by that theory. They will not use the metabolic theory because, one, they'll lose a lot of patients. You prevent a disease, you don't have a lot of patients paying their money. Also, if you use the metabolic theory, you get rid of all your toxic treatments, no more radiation, or very little radiation. I mean, if you have a tumor about to hit your spinal cord, you want to radiate that and get rid of it, but you don't want to radiate someone's breast because you just took a tumor out of it. That's the last thing you want to do, is make it more inflamed, but that's what they do. And the same with chemotherapy. They make you more inflamed. They don't understand the origin of cancer. And the frustration is that they don't want to. It appears that the pharmaceutical companies are giving enough money to all medical schools these days so they can have an influence over the curricula. And the curricula is not at this point willing to say that cancer is a metabolic disease, that cancer is caused by the suffocation of the mitochondria. They want to say, Mary Lou, we don't know what causes cancer, but we're going to fix you. Not to give us your money and we're going to fix you. And so women are angry. They're really angry because so many are learning that they have been overdiagnosed and overtreated and harmed.
Folks, we're speaking with Busting Breast Cancer author Susan Wadia-Ells. This is her book right here. We're actually going to give away a copy of Susan's book later on. 5 Simple Steps to Keep Breast Cancer Out of Your Body. Just a couple quick comments here from the audience tonight, Susan. Christian says, this is so multi-layered and complex, but I'm glad it's in the conversation. It sheds a light on cancers in general. Tony Stokes, I had an aunt who died of breast cancer in 1998. She was told by 2 doctors she was okay, even though she was concerned with a lump in her breast. A 3rd doctor diagnosed the breast cancer was at stage 3. Yikes. I have a friend who was diagnosed very early in 15, because it says 25 here, and is one of the breast cancer survivors after treatment. Okay. Here's a question from Jill. How does the metabolic therapy help if the woman has the BRCA gene, BRCA gene?
Right. Well, there's a BRCA1 gene and a BRCA2 gene in breast cells, and they're basically night watchmen. In fact, women have 3 night watchman genes in each breast cell: the BRCA1, the BRCA2, and something called the P53. And so when a breast cell begins to suffocate, because let's say it's getting attacked because of all the chemicals in the air, or the woman has a lot of stress, so the cortisol hormone is attacking it. The BRCA1, the BRCA2, and the P53 are all there to help knock out that cell. It's called apoptosis, to have the cell what's it called when to self-sacrifice itself, to commit suicide. So it's called, in biology, it's called apoptosis. When the cell starts to go bad or gets old, in a healthy person, it dies. It takes care of itself and it dies. I call it pop goes the weasel, but the biological term is apoptosis. And so when that's happening, and I've just forgotten my point here in my senior moments, so when that's happening, what was the question again, Corey?
How does the metabolic therapy help if a woman has the BRCA gene?
Gotcha. The BRCA. Yeah. Okay. So basically, you have 2 other night watchmen there. So if you have a mutated BRCA gene, it means it's broken. It can't help kill a suffocating cell. So instead of having 3 night watchmen, you only have 2 night watchmen. But if everything else is in your favor, and we'll talk about the importance of having a strong immune system with vitamin D3, we'll talk about how to detox yourself, etc. If everything else is going fine, you don't need 3 night watchmen. 2 will be fine. And in my book, I have a whole chapter on the BRCA gene, and it's a really important chapter for women who think, oh, I have a family history. Well, number one, everybody has a family history. Virginia, everybody has a family history. You'll always, so don't go with the family history. There's a beautiful study that was done between a Polish researcher and a Canadian researcher. And they took, 1,000 women with the BRCA gene in Poland and 1,000 women with the BRCA gene in the US. And they found that about 70% of the North American women, Canadian American, who had the BRCA gene developed breast cancer before they turned 70. In Poland, they found only 49% who had the BRCA gene developed breast cancer before they turned 70. So what's all that about? You then look at just women without the BRCA gene, and you find that there are like 300, probably about 150 women per 100,000 in the US, all ages, who develop breast cancer with very healthy BRCA genes. In Poland, it's about 40%. Not this, it's much less. So the BRCA gene really is irrelevant. What's important for women to understand is the United States is the most dangerous environment for a woman to live in if she wants to protect herself from breast cancer. Because we have the highest breast cancer rates in the world of any major country. You may find a few countries like the Netherlands and Norway, they have no sun, no vitamin D3 coming at them. They may have higher rates than we do. But in terms of large countries that have southern, warm climates, cold climates, etc., the US is the most dangerous place for a woman to live if she wants to avoid breast cancer. And in that chapter on BRCA, I had a lot of fun. I used all the research knowledge I had gleaned at that point. And I say in quotes, this is the Polish women's recipe for preventing breast cancer. And I found things like they eat tons more cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, you name it, which have in them an ingredient that helps cleanse all of the garbage from a woman's system, a person's, digestive system and their bodies. It cleans out all of this ATP, which is the residue of when energy is expended. You then get, you can, yes. And so, whereas in America, the most popular vegetables are potatoes,
French fries, yep.
and corn. Okay,
Yeah.
they're pure. And we go back now to the metabolic theory. The metabolic theory of cancer says there are only two fuels that go into a any cancer cell's fuel tank. The two fuels that propel and keep the duplication going of in this case, the breast tumor. The only two fuels are glucose, which means sugar, which means starches, which means potatoes and rice and corn and carrots and bread, etc., and granola, etc. And the other one is glutamine, which is a very important amino acid. But some cancer cells don't need a lot of glutamine. Others need more, and we can talk about that. But so the American diet is feeding glucose into people all the time, whereas the Polish diet is not, much less. So they're cleansing themselves when they eat their vegetables. We're feeding our cancer cells, or any cell that might decide to become cancer, when we're eating our vegetables. So it's just simple things like that in fact are not so simple. They're incredibly important, especially when you understand how cancer begins and then how you keep fueling the cancer. I mean, it's terrifying. Women are now sitting in these major cancer clinics, and they're being infused with the chemotherapy, and they're giving them cupcakes. They're giving them cupcakes to eat while they're infusing them with this toxic chemical. And they're feeding their cancer cells while they're killing them with the cancer, with the toxic chemicals. It makes no sense once you understand the origin of a woman's first breast cancer cell.
Fascinating. We do have some questions and comments here, Susan. This is from Joan. Susan, breast cancer does not run in my family. I was the first. I went for a mammogram for the first time 12 years ago, diagnosed with DCIS and left breast removed. My right side has been fine. She's asking for your thoughts.
Yeah, DCIS is not cancer. They call DCIS, they used to call it atypical cells, which is true. Then they started calling it ductal carcinoma in situ, which is what she's saying, DCIS. And the carcinoma, the cancer word, is still there. It serves to terrify women. And today they don't call it DCIS all the time. Now they call it stage 0 breast cancer. And it's something like 30% of women who are given mammograms. And this is why the industry loves mammograms. The only way you can identify the abnormal cells or the DCIS is with a mammogram. Thermography will show you that you have inflamed breasts. At that point, start to decrease the inflammation in your body, and the 5 simple steps will do that. So what they're doing is that's called overdiagnosing someone. When a woman is diagnosed with DCIS, it's only because she had a mammogram. They can't find it without it. And that's why in October, they're shoving the mammograms at women, the pink ribbons, ha, 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 because that's how they get so many new, quote, breast cancer patients. They're overdiagnosing and overtreating. And there's, again, I've got a whole chapter in my book. There's a wonderful researcher, a physician who's at he's at Brigham and Women's Hospital now. He has been doing research on mammograms and on the uselessness of mammograms, or the overtreatment that's happening, the overdiagnosis, the overtreatment. His name is Gil Welsh. He's an amazing researcher, and he has shown that your chances that women who don't have any mammograms live as long as women who have mammograms. I mean, he goes on and on. He does international studies, national studies. if you have DCIS, and there's a wonderful blog out there called DCIS 911. 411, 911, what's the emergency?
411 would be information, 911 would be emergency. So
okay, 411. Yeah. 411. It's a wonderful blog. Women should take a look at it. And it was started by a woman who was diagnosed with DCIS and is so angry that she let them diagnose her with stage 0 breast cancer and do these, toxic surgical chemotherapy, you name it. And she understands now how she was overtreated. And so that is the sad thing, because once you tell a woman you have ductal carcinoma, there's the cancer, carcinoma in situ or stage 0, you terrify them. And why shouldn't they be listening to the Dana-Farber and the Beverly Cancer Center people? These allegedly are doctors who are supposed to know what they're doing. But the sad thing is, what I found out after 14 years of research is mammograms are the feeder system for victimizing women and overdiagnosing and overtreating probably 10,000 women in the US alone every year. It makes you sick to your stomach. If women instead will have thermography every year and see, are your breasts inflamed? Well, if they are, then get to work. And here we go with the 5 simple steps. You need to get the inflammation out of your breasts, out of your whole body, because inflammation suffocates the mitochondria that then starts the cancer. Mm-hmm. So I hope that answers her question.
Yeah, this is fascinating, and we have a lot more comments and questions now. Tony Stokes, the majority of doctors misdiagnosing, diagnosing, and treating breast cancer are men who will never have breast cancer, although a small percentage of men get breast cancer. On the heels of that, Christian asked, Susan, I have a male friend who has beaten male breast cancer. Does your research apply to cases of male breast cancer as well? Thanks in advance.
Of course. In fact, as Dr. Seifert says in his foreword to my book, and I'm very honored that he wrote a foreword, he said that the work I've done is not just important for people interested in avoiding breast cancer. It's important for people wanting to avoid all cancers. So absolutely, absolutely.
And then Joan, she spoke about DCIS and having a left breast removed. Yes. The next year she was diagnosed with kidney cancer. Could the two be related?
Yes, she's suffocating her mitochondria. Suffocation of the mitochondria is how the first cancer cell begins. So again, we should get to the 5 simple steps, because it's to prevent breast cancer, to prevent liver cancer, to prevent, it's how to not suffocate the mitochondria, the power batteries in one's healthy cell.
Okay, so let's get to those 5 steps again. Susan is the author of Busting Breast Cancer, 5 Simple Steps to Keep Breast Cancer Out of Your Body. Now, this is a bestseller, and this is her second visit with us, so we appreciate Susan for being here. Yeah, okay, yeah. Susan, let's get into the 5 steps.
Okay, here they are. So the first one is lose your excess body fat. 2/3 of American women are either overweight or worse, they're obese. And it's become the norm. It's more unusual now to see women who have a healthy body mass, BMI, body mass index, than it is. We're used to seeing overweight and morbidly obese women. It's like normal. It used to be TV advertisements, everybody's pretty thin. Now, I mean, I don't have a TV, but now I do see them. They've got these plus sizes. What's going on is every excess fat cell in our bodies are generating estrogen. It's weak, but it's working 24/7. And so now, every woman should have a balance of progesterone and estrogen. As we get older, the levels go down, but we should still keep them balanced. And so some of us take plant-based estrogen creams and plant-based progesterone creams just to keep them up there, but to keep them balanced. When you're overweight, your estrogen's up like this and your progesterone is here. That excess is like an acid. it's attacking the mitochondria in your breast cells. That's why every study that shows women who are overweight have a 30% increase risk of developing breast cancer. It goes without saying. You go into most breast cancer infusion clinics, women are overweight. You look at, there's an organization called Living Beyond Breast Cancer. All of their group pictures, women are morbid, very few are thin. Most of them are morbidly obese. And no one is talking about excess estrogen coming from those excess fat cells attacking the mitochondria. They don't know that. They don't want to know it. They don't know it. So that's one of the first is losing weight. And we recommend a ketogenic diet, a ketogenic lifestyle. And why? Ketogenic lifestyle doesn't have much glucose. So you're eating, bacon and coconut oil and leafy greens, tons of leafy greens. There's carbs in there, but you've got to eat, a bushel of leafy greens to get up to 15 grams of carbs, but if you try and keep your body, your intake at 50 grams of carbs or less, you're having a couple of salads a day, but you're not having bread, you're not having rice, you're not having granola, you're having a lot of nuts, you're having, meat, but medium. You don't want to eat a ton of protein. You're really trying to eat a lot of fat, or if you're trying to lose fat, you don't want to eat a lot of fat. You don't want to eat a lot of anything. As Dr. Seifert says, if he were ever diagnosed with cancer, he would stop eating for a few weeks. A lot of people are doing intermittent fasting. That's a beautiful thing. So some people will eat one day a normal diet, another, and not another. And if you go on a ketogenic diet, it takes away your hunger because, and we don't want to get into too much about the ketone bodies that you're forming, but you're not fueling your body anymore on glucose. When you eat bananas and granola and oatmeal at 7 in the morning, you're starving by 10 or 11. You want to have a donut. And then you're starving at noontime. You want to have a hamburger or pasta or something. And you're starving because all that glucose, the hamburger roll is the glucose, not the hamburger, but all of that glucose is like diesel fuel. You burn it really fast, so you're hungry again. And excess body fat is nothing but eating too much glucose. Your body can't process it all, so it stores it. But once you stop eating glucose, it starts turning that excess fat into what they call ketone bodies, which are like pellets of high octane fuel, and your brain loves ketones. Your healthy cells love ketones. Your cancer cells hate it. They starve if you only give them ketones. And so they're very weak. And so, you're starting to clean yourself out of cancer cells. So that's number one. The second thing to do to prevent breast cancer or all cancers is this is the easiest, is to get your vitamin D3 blood level way up there, above 60 if you can. And it's called nanograms per milliliter is how they measure it. And how do you get vitamin D3? A couple of ways. One, people will take the vitamin D3 supplements, but they have to take enough supplements to get it up to 60. Women will say, oh, I take D3. My doctor says take 1,000. Well, that's fine if you're already at 60, if your blood level's already at 60, because it means your immune system is really strong. And again, I have a whole chapter in the book on D3. But the two ways of getting the D3 are from the sunshine outside or the sunshine in a sunbanks of Gloucester, in a indoor tanning salon. And people think I'm nuts, but it's not, but I'm not. You can see the medical research that shows if you do not burn, we never want to burn our skin with oil, with hot oil, with fire, or with too much sun, like a sunburn. We never want to do that. That harms it. But to give our bodies, especially in the Boston area where we are, Corey, we don't have much sun. maybe beginning in June and hopefully through September, but I haven't seen much sun even this winter. But even if there is sun in the winter, it's too far away. It's not going to give you any D3. So you need to tan a couple of times a week, unless you sunburn really easily, then you shouldn't. And again, we talk about different kinds of skin cancer, and the skin cancer that kills you is a melanoma. But a melanoma only happens if you have a low vitamin D3. The squamous cell, the basal cell, yeah, you'll get it more often if you have too much sun or a lot of sun. But I do skin checks twice a year. And yeah, they'll burn off a little bit here, a little bit there, but I'd rather have that happen than get breast cancer. So you want the D3 up there. And that's a really, really important chapter to read, because it's so easy. But many doctors, if your doctor doesn't put a D3 test in your blood panel, get another doctor. D3 is the most important supplement. It's really a hormone that anyone can have. It blocks all sorts, because I call it the internet, it's the amount, it's how strong your internal internet is. If your D3 is high, when your little breast cell starts to suffocate, the D3 can quickly call in your immune cells to wipe out, to help the apoptosis, to wipe out a suffocating cell in your liver, in your brain, in your boob. Any of those places, get the D3 up, and you're protecting yourself from autoimmune conditions, from so many conditions. So that's number 2. Number 3, we've already said, don't have mammograms. Mammograms are bad for numbers of reasons. One, they're radiating the breast. The other is they're smashing it. And I'd love to see, a man have to go through a smash of his testicles. You would stop that. It's a barbaric.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. We'll pass.
They're outdated and they're barbaric. But the only reason and ultrasound is so much better. Thermography tells you if you've got high inflammation in your breasts. If you're feeling a tumor or a lump, an ultrasound can do it. But you know what? The industry and the insurance companies have worked it out. They will not allow a doctor to order an ultrasound, even if she's got a tumor coming out of her breast. That doctor is not allowed to order an ultrasound until they smash the breast with a mammogram. Now tell me that doesn't make any sense. This is ridiculous. And women need to understand there are such things called concierge ultrasound clinics. And if you want an ultrasound and not a mammogram, you go to one of these concierge clinics. You pay $250 or whatever, but you don't have to have a mammogram first. That's something I've learned since the book came out. So that's the next thing is we've done lose your fat, increase your D3, and the whole mammogram thing. And we've talked about why one single mammogram can take you down this horrific road. The other thing is you can't find little tiny stage 1 tumors usually unless you have a mammogram. And most of these stage 1 tumors, breast tumors, are what they call indolent. They're asleep. They've been there maybe for 10 years, 20 years. They may not be, if you don't touch them, they probably won't do anything most of the time until after you're dead. And even then they're going to shrink if you're dead, right? So, because we all shrink when we die. But if a mammogram finds this little 0.5 centimeter tumor, the doctors go in and they do a biopsy, a fine needle biopsy. They have to use different ultrasound things, whatever, to find that little tumor, and they poke it. You don't ever want to poke a cancerous tumor. It's like a beehive. Cancer cells in a tumor are not connected like healthy cells in our flesh is connected. They're like little bees in a beehive, and you poke it with a biopsy and you have a very good chance of pulling an errant cancer cell out of that tumor, and it's in your body. Here comes your immune system to help heal the wound that the surgeon just did by poking your tumor. And something called the macrophage, the strongest immune cell in our body, can morph, can connect with that breast cancer cell, and it can go any place. It can heal. Macrophages can heal our bones, can heal our skins, can heal our liver, can heal our brain. That little macrophage can connect with that little breast cell, cancer cell, and go wherever it wants to. And that's how you start metastasis, according to one of the theories called the seed and soil theory, which the Dana-Farbers and the Beverly Cancer Clinic, they don't want to hear about that. In fact, most of their surgeons and their oncologists have never heard of the seed and soil theory, but it's been around since 1899, apparently. Again, it's in my book. So we've got no mammography, no extra body fat. Keep your vitamin D3 up there. A fourth is detoxification of the body, beginning with detoxification of stress. So, and for some reason, and I don't know if anyone understands this yet, I haven't found any research on it. Stress is often the most critical factor in a woman developing breast cancer. So we remember Elizabeth Edwards. Now, she was the wife of the VP and, candidate he ran for, anyway. She developed breast cancer a few years after her one and only son was instantly killed in a car crash at age 16. I've had women say to me, Susie, I got my first breast cancer diagnosis 2 years after my first divorce, and I got my second breast cancer diagnosis 2 years after my second divorce. I'm not getting married anymore, but stress. So if someone really loves to meditate, see if you can meditate once a day, at least twice a day at best. Maybe it's even for 15 minutes or a half an hour. But try and do it. Or if you really, really love running, don't run too much, but go out there and run, or make sure you have a meditative walk, or make sure you're doing yoga, or whatever your form of relaxation is. Do it, and do it as a serious detoxification practice to lower your cortisol levels. That's really, and of course, detoxification goes on in terms of water filters, in terms of clean food, in terms of clean air. It can go on and on and on. So that detoxification. And the last one is, to me, very, very. The last one is, it's called progestin. Progestin is a chemical that we have known since 2010, not only initiates breast cancer, it also accelerates any breast cancer you already have. And where is progestin found? Progestin is found in every birth control drug out there. Progestin is found in most of the new marinas, the IUDs, the intrauterine devices that they have laced with progestin. There's only one IUD available in the US market that doesn't have this progestin in it. It's called Paragard. Paragard, when I had Paragard back in the 70s, I had it for like 10 years. It was like $30, no big deal, and it goes for 10 years. I mean, it's good for 10 years. Hey, that's pretty good. And it's got no hormones in it. No, this progestin is a chemical progesterone hormone, but progestin is very nasty, very nasty. And when they started to allow, pharmaceutical drugs to be advertised on television, they started to make birth control drugs like, an everyday drug, and like, it'll fix your acne. You can have this kind of birth control drug, and you only get your period 4 times a year, and all these different things. So they could advertise this now directly to the consumer. This is thanks to good old President Clinton. He allowed that. And so up you go. So as the birth control drug sales went up because of the advertising on TV, the rate of, and I've got this in my book, the rate of breast cancer in premenopausal women went up at the same trajectory.
Hmm.
And the very, very, very sad thing to me is in 2010, this blue, and it's this in my book, and I've got verse, what is it, chapter and verse in here. It was published in Nature magazine, October of 2010. And it said, we have finally figured out how progestin creates and accelerates breast cancer. There's the study. And what they don't mention is the mitochondria. They say once it goes into the woman's body, they then talk in technical terms that I don't know if even they understand, but they then say it accelerates and initiates breast cancer. That study has never been publicly announced to women. And progestin, by the way, is also in what they call combination menopausal relief drugs. So if you still have a uterus and you're postmenopausal and you're having hot flashes and you're depressed and you're gaining weight, the doctors will then put you on, it's called Premarin or Prempro. There's some other names for it, but those were the original ones. And there was a humongous study, the Women's Health Initiative, and they stopped that study in 2002 because they gave the women the Prempro to, which had the progestin in it. They had 20% more breast cancer within 2 years because they're taking this Prempro, the progestin. And so women immediately, they made that public. That was a national study. They made it public. Half of women who had been taking that Prempro with the progestin, they stopped filling their prescriptions. When you give women good information, we're not stupid, but they have not yet given women the information that progestin in the birth control drugs, and there's 10 times more progestin in birth control drugs than there is in the menopausal relief drug. And so guess what? We just keep seeing more and more and more younger women developing breast cancer. It's because they are not allowed. We only have one hormone-free IUD. In Europe, they have various brands, various sizes, various shapes, but the FDA does not allow any foreign IUDs, hormone-free IUDs, into the United States. They passed a law saying IUDs in 1999. IUDs are not medical devices, they said. They're prescription drugs. And you have to do a $1 billion study over a 10-year period to allow any new prescription drugs on the market. And so we've blocked women in the United States from having hormone-free contraception. That's the fifth one. There you go.
Well said. All right, once again, this is Dr. Susan Wadia-Ells, and she is the author of Busting Breast Cancer, right? 5 simple steps to keep breast cancer out of your body. We just went over the 5 steps. We have lots of comments and questions for you, Susan. Okay. This is from Pixie Dust. A very high percentage of women have an autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's and others that also affect the ability to maintain a healthy weight. Are those autoimmune diseases connected to the same cause of cancer?
Oh, I'm out of my bailiwick, as I would say. I mean, everyone has to know that we should have made this clear too, Corey. I have no medical background, which is why I think this book is so effective. Because if I have been able to understand the studies, and I have thousands of footnotes in this book, I don't make a statement without backing it up with 1 or 2 peer review studies. My background, I'm a political economist. My graduate work's in political economy and my PhD is in women's studies. I've just always been an advocate for women. I've been a cultural change agent and an investigative reporter, journalist. So when you talk about the connection between autoimmune diseases and cancer, all I can say is my understanding is that the mitochondria are involved in both types. Both cancer we've gone through, and I've done, the research, so I have some understanding, not deep, but I have some understanding of how the mitochondria suffocates and how it then connects to start that oncogene duplicating the cancer cell. I have understood from some very minimal research that autoimmune conditions also are begun with mitochondrial issues, but that's as far as I can go.
Gotcha. Here's a question for you, Susan. What is better for young women, birth control or an IUD?
A Paragard IUD. What's best for young women is to go to Mexico on a vacation, go to Europe on a vacation, and you will be able to buy, you'll be able to find a gynecologist who is used to fitting women with the best fitting IUD. Uteruses, you know, like noses, we're all different. We've got different sizes, different shapes, etc. And so you want an IUD that's hormone free that fits your uterus. And so you can get a good fitting IUD if you're out of the country. Don't buy the IUD and bring it home with you. Planned Parenthood and any MD is not allowed to insert a foreign purchased IUD because it's considered to be a drug, and they're not able to. Makes no sense at all. But anyway, that's what you do. You go on vacation and have the IUD, a good IUD that's your shape and size fitted, and that's what you do.
All right. How about this one? Is a bioidentical as dangerous as HRT, Premarin?
Oh, well, no. I mean, there are two ways you can do bioidenticals. One, you can spend a heck of a lot of money and go to naturopathic physicians, and they will, you know, do the tests and stuff, and then they'll send you to the compounding pharmacist to get the bioidenticals. You can also go to something like Smoky Mountain Natural, and well, first you want to have a hormone balancing test. And so that can be done, I believe, with saliva these days. And you just, and Zava Lab, ZAVA, out on the West Coast, they've been doing this for a long time. And they will send you a kit, a test kit, and you give them your saliva, and they can basically then tell you if you're, how many hormone, you know, how much of the progesterone versus the estrogen you have, if you're balanced, if you're low, if you're high, if you're uneven. And at that point, and usually the bioidenticals are for women who have stopped making most of our own estrogen, progesterone, either because we've had hysterectomies or we're postmenopausal, and that's when things begin to shut down. So, you just want to have balanced hormones, and bioidentical are certainly much safer than HRT unless you don't mind you don't have a uterus, and you don't mind taking pregnant horses' urine, because Premarin is PRE, pregnant, Premarin, uterine, you know, urine. So better to not, for me personally, better not to take Premarin, even though it doesn't have that progestin chemical in it. Better to do natural creams. That's what I say.
All right. Here's a question from Mary Hubble. Corey, please ask Susan what she thinks of the new federal law stating that healthcare must notify women who have high-density breast tissue.
Oh,
I was told that a few years ago after having a mammogram. Are they doing that just to cover themselves?
Okay, this is I'm so glad someone asked this, because I had written it down, in fact, to mention it. I was getting toward the end of the book, and I'm thinking, what is this stuff about dense breast? They're not telling us why. They keep saying dense breast puts you at a higher risk for breast cancer, right? I said, but I've never heard anyone say how it puts you at a higher risk. So I literally took 2 or 3 weeks. I really was into this at this point. And I printed off every single study I could find. And I'm talking about dozens of studies, looking at how dense breasts put you at a higher risk for breast cancer. And I finally, eventually, you learn how to read these scientific studies. And also you learn how come there are so many scientific studies on dense breasts, but so few on let's say the progestin, that nasty chemical. More on dense breast. So I looked at them all, and because the cancer industry finances, they'll say we're going to give $250,000 to 12 researchers who give us the best projects on how to study dense breast connected to breast cancer. So everybody starts to put their studies together, their proposals together, because every lab, every college, every whatever wants that $250,000 study. Okay. And so they put all these projects together, and then 10 people are given $250,000 each by the pharmaceutical companies. And then they do their studies. And all of their studies will start. Sometimes they just say dense breasts are, we know, or dense breasts are a risk factor for breast cancer. They'll start out the study saying that. And then if you keep reading, it says, so we decided to look at X, Y, and Z and to see, how dense breasts connect with the proclivity for developing breast cancer. And when you finally get to the end of the study, it says, we couldn't find any connection between dense breast and breast cancer. They say it in very clandestine ways, but they say it. And I have listed every study in that chapter that talks about dense breasts are not in any way that anybody has found connected to breast cancer. But, and meanwhile, most premenopausal women, most Asian women, dense breast means it's more muscle than fat. And so many, oh, by the way, US women have the biggest breasts in the world because we have so much estrogen. And it's not my generation. It's the teens of today, the 20s, the 30s, the 40-year-olds. They have the largest breasts of any women as a group in the world.
I'll just say I hadn't noticed, Susan.
and in America, there's a massive breast fetish, massive. And so women really become victims when they are diagnosed with breast cancer. And this is, this book is really, Corey, 5 books in one. It's an economics book. This is an unnecessary, very highly profitable epidemic. It's a political book. There's no difference between our government health agencies and the pharmaceutical companies and the big profit-making cancer centers. They're all the same people, revolving door. It's a political book. And it's also a how-to book, 5 simple steps. It's also a woman's empowerment book. It says, don't let that society tell you that your breasts are you. Because, women are so programmed in this society that, you never see, you never are given shots of men's crotches to see how big they are. You're always given shots of women's cleavages to see how big they are. And if we start to see more big crotches, maybe men will start, stuffing their, okay?
We do that here at the Bridge on request only.
Right, exactly. but I'm so serious when I say that this is a woman's empowerment. And thank goodness there's a number of women's groups out there that have said, you take my breast off, I'm not going to have reconstruction because I can have lots of problems with that. And I don't want to walk around with Mount Vesuvius sticking out of my chest if I'm lying down or standing up. I'm going flat. I am more than those breasts. And I give those women such courage because this society is so nasty to women, in terms of dictating what they're supposed to look like. So there we are. So we were on dense breasts. So I'm happy to say women who are premenopausal have more muscle than fat. You get postmenopausal, you tend to get more fat than muscle. Asian women genetically have smaller breasts. More Asian women have dense breasts than American women. On and on we go. And the studies are showing there is absolutely no connection between dense breasts and breast cancer. Now, some women will say, they found a mammogram. I would have a mammogram every year, and they never found my tumor. But all of a sudden, I felt it 3 weeks after I had a mammogram, or 3 months after. And some breast tumors will grow quickly. There's no doubt about it. But if it's not growing, don't do anything. It's not going anyplace. Your breast is not your brain. Your breast is not your liver, your pancreas. A woman has never died of breast cancer. Of a breast tumor. She only dies when that tumor metastasizes after a biopsy, or after it's grown quite large and it escapes. But you'll know about that. So there we go. That's the dense breast thing.
All right. Thanks for the question, Mary. Appreciate it. Next is from Lulu. Susan, I've read your book. Where do you get your ambrotose powder?
No, I'm about to start an affiliates page, on my website. I haven't done it yet. Ambrotose, it's my white magic powder. It's from a company called Manatech, and it's down in Texas, and Flower Mound, Texas, or something. It's outside of Dallas, and it's a networking operation. I started taking ambrotose 1997. It was only being sold in 7 states. It was like $1 million product. Today, it's around the world. It's considered a Class B pharmaceutical in I think Australia, maybe New Zealand as well. And it just encourages cell-to-cell communication. So you get it. You can go online or find a Manatech representative, and you get it that way. Yeah.
Cheryl Higgs says, excellent advice. I have Susan's book because of your first show. Thanks, Corey. Well, thank you. Annalie has Susan's website up there, bustingbreastcancer.com, if you want to learn more about this or order the book. Or we can actually give one of these away right now, Susan. What do you say?
Oh, I think it's a great idea. And let me just also say, Corey, if people want the copy you have, which I had left at the local bookstores, but also we call this the launch copy, and it's got full color charts and graphs in it. If you get it from Amazon, or if you get it through bookstores outside of Gloucester, it's going to be all black and white. The designer was amazing. She grew up in Manchester. She's in outside of Concord, New Hampshire. Align Graphics, incredible, and she did a beautiful job with the charts and graphs. So if they're black and white, they're fine. But if you want full color and a signed copy, you got it. If you go to the website, bustingbreastcancer.com, and order from the website, then I'll ship it out to you. I'll sign it, and there you are.
All right, I'm going to share my screen really quickly because I have folks' names in our little prize wheel here. Now, Susan, you can't see this, but I have everyone's names in here.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, so we're spinning the wheel now. A little polka music. This is to win a copy of Busting Breast Cancer, folks, with Susan Wadia-Ells, and the winner is... Oh, Annalie, I just saw your name spin by.
Oh, looks like... Oh, no.
And there you go. Laura Johnson. Laura, she was with us last night. I know that much. So congratulations, Laura. Wow. I'll get in touch with you and send you a copy of Susan's book. So thanks for that. That was fun. Exciting, huh?
Good. I've never seen that. That's great.
The drama just doesn't stop here. So, well, so Susan, so what's next for you? Are you still doing speaking engagements because of this? Are you researching something else now? Or what's going on in your world?
Yeah, no, I have a newsletter. I haven't sent it out. And in fact, the newsletter list keeps growing. I think I'm up to almost 3,000 right now. I really wanted to see, I guess I needed some time off, but I really wanted to see how the post-COVID, era, what's going on with breast cancer post-COVID, and I'm finding some scary news. But first, I'm happy to say I was just asked to speak at KetoCon down in Austin, Texas. This will be happening next month at the end of the month. Yeah, it's the largest ketogenic conference, they say, in the world. It's I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 people. And it looks like my talk is the only one that connects the ketogenic diet with cancer. because we're really promoting that women, as a prevention measure, just go keto a couple weeks every few months. You don't have to go keto all the time, but if you go keto every few weeks, every few months, and you're serious about it, what you'll do is you will be helping starve any cancer cells that might be developing in any part of your body, not just your breast. So it's ketogenic is also it makes you much smarter, I find. So it's just a good way to live, and it will help lose, help you drop any excess body weight. So that's good. Yeah.
It is. Here's a question for you, Susan. Can breast reduction help to reduce the possibility of breast cancer?
Oh, again, that's really out of my bailiwick, but I would think that breast reduction is going to cause some level of inflammation. So I would say before you have any kind of breast surgery is going to create inflammation. Any kind of arm surgery is going to create inflammation in your arm. It's just logical. So I would say if someone's considering breast reduction, that they make sure that they have a thermogram, and that they can see that they do not have inflamed breasts. Because if you have inflamed breast and you have breast reduction, you're increasing the inflammation. That increases the possibility of suffocation of the mitochondria of some breast cells that are left in there, and off you go. So the deal is to know and to make sure before you have any kind of operation, your D3 is way up above 60. So there's a lot of things to consider.
Very true. Okay. How about this question? Susan, please address doctors wanting to put in titanium markers. A lot of people are allergic to titanium.
No, I've heard about this. Again, they're putting it in so they can pinpoint where that little tumor is. So then when they go in to stick it with a biopsy, see, in the metabolic world of treating cancer, you don't need to do a biopsy. All cancer cells start because of the same thing, suffocation of the mitochondria. And all cancer cells are fed by only two fuels in that gas tank, the glucose and the glutamine. If your treatment is focused on getting rid of the glucose, you do that through the ketogenic diet. They're coming up with other ways with MCT supplements, et cetera, but they're not there yet. It's really a strict ketogenic diet. And then they're finding if you use small amounts once you've got your cancer cell starving because you're not giving them any glucose, then they're using
Susan, that finger.
No, sorry.
Who starts with their middle finger?
They're giving them these repurposed drugs that are antiparasitic. So it could be ivermectin, it could be a number of antiparasitic drugs that basically, for whatever reason, are able to block the glutamine going into the weakest cells of your body. At this point, those are your cancer cells. And so there's really no need to know if you have triple negative breast cancer, if you have HER2 positive, if you have triple positive, they go on and on and on. And then in the genetic world, if you have, let's say, triple positive cancer, well, then we're going to prescribe this for you, this for you, this for you, and this for you. What women need to know is doctors these days, oncologists, they don't have a choice of how they're going to treat you for the most part. If your biopsy says you have XYZ, the Commission on Cancer, which is run by the cancer industry, they say to doctors, then she gets 2 doses of this, 3 hits of this, 4 things of this. If you don't lop off the breast, she gets 7 of this and 6 of this. And then women have to really fight hard to say, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Or I'm only going to do half of this. You struggle. You're on a conveyor belt and they've got a process going for you. So there we are.
Okay, just a little bit of time left. I know we talking off camera, Susan, you brought up the term turbo cancers.
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to discuss that at all? I've never heard the term before.
My next newsletter, people go to bustingbreastcancer.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll get it in about hopefully 4 or 5 days. and I'm going to be talking a lot about that, but ever since the vax rollout, what oncologists are seeing, and when it comes to breast cancer, is a significant increase in the number of breast cancer diagnoses. And they're saying that the early tumors are not a half a centimeter, not 2 centimeters. They're 7, 8, 10 centimeters. They're big. So the tumors are growing faster. They're also saying that the time to metastasis for a lot of women, if they've had, the biopsies and stuff, instead of being a few years or a decade or more, too often that they're within months. And I'm just can imagine that it's and there's a couple of different studies saying that the spike protein, if it gets left in you from either, I suppose, from the virus itself and or from the vaccine, that spike protein it's scraping at the mitochondria. It's suffocating. So this is a reason why I'm basically going to be dedicating the next year, a couple of years, to promoting this 5 simple steps. Because if someone has got something in them, and hopefully I don't know, the spike protein doesn't stay in you that long, I don't know. But if in fact it is scraping at the mitochondria, that means, the autoimmune, a lot of people who had low-level autoimmune conditions, they're now finding that they have not, high-level autoimmune conditions. You're seeing people dying after a short bout with cancer. So I don't know, but it's certainly the diagnoses are up, the size of the tumors are up, and the time to metastasis is up. So this is why we need to make prevention. This October Breast Cancer Awareness Month is for the bird. It needs to be eradicated. It's just trying to get you to go get that mammogram, making you feel guilty. Every month needs to be Breast Cancer Prevention Month. Forget awareness. We have too much awareness already about breast cancer. The last thing we need is more awareness. We need prevention. So women who have excess body fat, get rid of it. Get on that ketogenic diet and get rid of it. Women who have high stress, find a way. Acupuncture, meditation, whatever. Get serious about it. Really know your vitamin D3 blood level. Get it above 60. Get it to 80. Get it high. It's harder the older you are, and it's harder the fatter you are. Because every time you take a vitamin D supplement, part of that supplement gets stored in your fat cells. And until you start losing 2/3 of your excess fat cells, then it'll release and your D3 will go way up, which is very nice. Yeah. But at this point, your D3, a lot of it's being stored in your fat cells. It's inert. It's not doing you any good in terms of your immune system. So there we are.
We have a comment from Meredith. My first oncologist recommended chemotherapy. Through my own research, I found that it wouldn't work well with my type of cancer. You definitely have to be your own advocate with medical care. Well said. And then Pixie Dust says, I have read that K2 helps metabolize the vitamin D. What dose is recommended?
Well, I think K2 only comes in one dose. It's like 400 something. And K2 is a bit expensive. Vitamin D3 doesn't have to be expensive, but K2 can be a bit, but it's worth it. drmercola.com, if you, he's done a lot of research on the importance of K2 when you take it with D3. But the important thing with D3 again is know your vitamin D3 blood level. It's going to be different in the winter than in the summer. So have it done twice. And if your doctor will not prescribe it, in your blood panel, get another doctor. You also can go to Grassroots Health and I think Vitamin D3 Council, and they'll send you home tests. So inexpensively, you can do a little blood sample, send it in, and they'll give you your D3 levels. But you need to know your D3 before you start taking the D3 supplements, because you're probably not taking enough, or maybe you're taking too much. You need to know where you are.
Fascinating stuff tonight, Susan. I really appreciate it. Once again, she's the author of Busting Breast Cancer, 5 Simple Steps to Keep Breast Cancer Out of Your Body. You can order this right now. Annalie has the link in there for you, bustingbreastcancer.com. Congratulations, Laura Johnson, on winning this book tonight. We'll send that to you ASAP. And Susan, we should definitely continue this conversation. I think next time we should actually be side by side.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
And do that. So we'll figure that out. But so do you
I
want
love your living room. I love your living room.
Yeah, isn't that cool? You get right by the fire in there. Got plenty of space for you.
By the fire.
Yeah. So any final words for the folks watching and listening tonight?
Yeah, it's the final word in my book, which is when someone will say, well, how do we end this breast cancer epidemic? And my response is one woman at a time. That if you are able to do the 5 simple steps and you show your friends that you're able to do the 5 simple steps, and they'll see the difference. Or at least they'll hear about the difference. It's one woman at a time. And when enough women go to Dana-Farber and knock and they say, do you offer metabolic therapies here? I don't want the chemo. I don't want the radiation. I don't want the immediate mastectomy. Thank you very much. I want ketogenic diet by the dietitian. I want glutamine blocking pills that are not going to be very toxic. Do you offer these? Hyperbaric oxygen, which is also very good. Do you offer these, Dana-Farber? And they say no. The women say, I'm not coming in. You got it one woman at a time. And it's very difficult because whenever you're diagnosed with any kind of cancer, it's so easy for us who haven't been diagnosed to say, oh, we do this, we do this. Until we're diagnosed, we don't know if we're going to be strong enough to say no to Dana-Farber, no to this blue ribbon oncologist. We don't know. But it's one woman at a time to prevent.
Well said, Susan. I appreciate your knowledge and your service and your time tonight too. It was that was a great conversation. We learned a lot. I'm going to send you this link after tomorrow, so you can, when you watch this, you'll notice all the appreciative comments in the live chat for you tonight. Okay, it was a great group there. Okay, got to thank our moderators, Annalie Finch, Thankful Mom, and Christian Montone, and everybody who joined us tonight. Lots of great questions and comments, and we appreciate it. Susan, I'll talk to you soon. Okay, I hope you had fun tonight. And good luck with the book as it marches on. Busting Breast Cancer, folks. You can get this right now. Yes. You can leave this site and go and order right now if you'd like. bustingbreastcancer.com. Thanks again, Susan. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, folks.